Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston are springing up cash. Just sell us your gently used warm weather styles like tees, shorts, sandals, and more. We're paying cash on the spot for gently used spring styles for guys and girls. Support sustainable fashion. This spring, do your thing and recycle the spring-inspired clothes, shoes, and accessories that are just hanging in your closet for cash on the spot. Let your spring clothes bloom into cash at Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
Your destination.
Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston are springing up cash. Just sell us your gently used warm weather styles like tees, shorts, sandals, and more. We're paying cash on the spot for gently used spring styles for guys and girls. Support sustainable fashion. This spring, do your thing and recycle the spring-inspired clothes, shoes, and accessories that are just hanging in your closet for cash on the spot. Let your spring clothes bloom into cash at Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
News and ideas. RM World Travel. Sunday morning, starting at 5 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
Portions of the following program are pre-recorded.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, your two Talk of the Town on a thoughtful Thursday. Of course, being Thursday, it's time for Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy at Dakota Natural Health Center. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning to you.
And you got a little guest with us as well, Mick Peterson, nurse practitioner with Health Now.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for coming in. I thought it was kind of important this week because, well, this month, June, is Men's Health Month.
Yep. And last week was Men's Health Week. So
we should have done this show last week.
We should have done this show last week, but
well, you had some zoo stuff. That was fun too.
That
was really fun talking about the zoo.
Yeah, we captured Terry Lincoln from the zoo last week.
Yeah,
so
Kids Day went great on Saturday. Yeah. Coming up this Saturday, another big day at the zoo.
Yeah, breakfast with the animals, and then after that, they're holding their grand opening for their new otter exhibit. So big time.
I love otters. Otters are so cool.
We had a huge crowd at the zoo on Saturday for Children's Day. Really nice turnout. There'll be a big crowd again this coming Saturday.
Well, between breakfast and then you get to watch the otters play.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how busy the zoo's going to be this Saturday. Going to be a good time. So anyway, this month, and we'll talk about zoo stuff coming up later, but this month, of course, Men's Health Month. And I guess probably the best place to start is some numbers because you go, okay, men's health. Pretty broad topic.
Yeah, it is. And, men typically probably don't take care of themselves as well as women.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Well, I'm just saying there's three of us in the room.
Mickey's looking at me.
And Mick, this is his second time on the show, and I'm thrilled that he's here this morning because at Health Now and his nurse practitioner skills, he does focus on some hormone things with men and women. So he's a great resource and a great partner for us at Dakota Natural Health Center and Dakota Pharmacy.
Okay, so and we'll get into the relationship between the two because there's a lot to talk about just in that. The compounding lab brings to men's health from a hormone perspective. And we'll get into that as well. But what are some of the major health concerns for men? Because I'm thinking kind of in three different planes here. You've got typical men's health concerns. You've got men's health concerns that men can circumvent or mitigate by taking care, some preventative action early on, and then there's things you just got to deal with.
Correct. Just a couple startling statistics is men's life expectancy is about 70 years, and it's 74 years for women. So men die about 4 years earlier.
It's due to marriage.
Yeah, well, it has a lot
I
to
think
do
it's
with
due
it.
to marriage, but
that will not be a topic of today's discussion.
Just in case my wife's listening.
The leading cause of death in men is heart disease.
Again, I thought it was going to be. I never.
Heart disease is silent. So if men aren't seeing their practitioner or taking care of themselves, suddenly they have that life-changing episode.
See, that's one of the things, though, and I get in this habit every year, routine physical. and make sure they do a calcium workup and certain, there's some certain tests that your primary care physician just should run.
Right.
But a lot of those are age specific, aren't they?
A lot of them end up being age specific. The other part of that is looking at family history, as to, you can start running these tests at any age. A lot of times if you have a cardiac event early on in your a primary relative, whether it's mom or dad, say they have a heart attack in their 40s. In reality, you should start those routine blood tests, cholesterol level, comprehensive, metabolic, looking at your kidneys and liver 10 years earlier than that. So dad has a heart attack at 45. Any child should start screening at 35 in reality and taking steps to prevent that from occurring. So cholesterol level, complete blood count, comprehensive metabolic panel, looking at the electrolytes, kidneys, liver, like I said. Those are all nice routine things that are pretty easy and relatively harmless to check, but they can have long-lasting preventative measures associated with them. So, yeah, heart health is a huge piece.
Again, though, going back to that triad of care, I mean, is that something where you typically, one thing I always get is, I want a liver panel. I've had liver issues in the past, so I want a liver panel, and it's something I got to ask for.
Right.
It's not, there's some things that aren't typically, routine physical, boom, done, check the box. But that's where I'm engaged in my healthcare,
right,
because I know that I need to have a liver panel every now and then.
Yeah. One has to ask and advocate for themselves, and knowing that you have liver issues, somebody else might know that they have thyroid issues. They have to ask for something like that every time that they see their provider.
Don't assume that it's going to be on the chart. Correct. And they catch it. Not nowadays in an age. It just, it's kind of turned into billable hours. And Kevin, you and I have talked about this, where you don't sit there and visit with your primary care physician for a half hour anymore. It doesn't happen.
No.
Mm-hmm. It really doesn't. But going back to the triad of care, thinking about, looking at your liver function tests or looking at your cholesterol level, being able to walk down the hallway and talk with Kevin or Crystal or one of the pharmacists that are down there about, patients concerned about some joint aches because of their cholesterol lowering medication. Okay, well, what are some other options that we have? Or going and talking with their pharmacist,
rather than just here's a pill for that.
Here's a pill for that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What other measures can we take to mitigate, like you said, those side effects or consequences,
and sometimes the risk, you have somebody who's on a cholesterol medication and suddenly they have severe back pain, severe joint pain, fatigue. They just quit. They just quit their medication.
They never tell anyone.
And they don't tell anyone until they might show up later and say, yeah, I had my cholesterol checked and it's off the charts and I can't take the medication. What do I do? Had that conversation with somebody a week ago, a patient that just kind of walked in the door looking for help. But then I have the option to give them mix card because they need that person to take care of them, that becomes their primary care. And it's a wonderful relationship between the nurse practitioners in the health center and our pharmacy staff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we touched on health or heart health. What else is out there?
Diabetes, I think, tends to be something, it's one of those silent things again, unless you're having some symptoms of high blood sugars, which usually if you're having symptoms of high blood sugars, your blood sugar's really high. But another statistics, men are nearly twice as likely to die prematurely from diabetes than women.
Wow.
That's a startling statistic. And to me, what that means is they're not treating themselves properly, or their lifestyle is probably not proper. They're not getting their medical checkups on a timely basis because, it's pretty easy to do a fasting blood sugar and get an initial number that is going to lead you down a path to try to get this rectified.
And diabetes is one of those, you think, okay, somebody's got 50 pounds to lose, they're pre-diabetic. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily the case. I've got a couple friends that are diabetic that they've been in better shape all their life than I have been.
Yeah, and that comes back to like insulin resistance and how their body processes glucose, the sugar in their system. So, yeah, that's just because they don't typically look like the diabetic patient that they have that 50 pounds.
Because we got this stereotype in our head.
Absolutely,
it doesn't fit.
No, and that's that's where the intricacies of blood sugar control and insulin resistance comes into play, where it's not just you can do a simple fasting blood sugar, but in those patients, you have to start looking at what's the rest of their body metabolically doing. Are they working out? Are they exercising? What are they putting into their body? What are they consuming? Lots of different factors to consider with those types of patients.
But these are the guys who really then you have to look at their genetics as well. So that's a big part of Mick and I have had conversations helping each other with patients, and he does a deep dive on what's going on with family history and
like you and I talk all the time. It's like integrated system. It's like, okay, here's the symptom, but what's really causing it?
Right. So, but if you're not pursuing a program when you're a pre-diabetic or a type 2 diabetic, suddenly I think you cross a line where they don't want to do the medication. Sometimes they have side effects from it, but they can't go back. I mean, that the insulin resistance gets so severe, they really can't recover from it.
We're talking to Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy and Dakota National Health Center. Mick Peterson, nurse practitioner with Health Now, one of the many facilities nestled into downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. Men's health is the topic. Of course, June is Men's Health Month, and we're talking about men's health concerns. When we come back, more. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston are springing up cash. Just sell us your gently used warm weather styles like tees, shorts, sandals, and more. We're paying cash on the spot for gently used spring styles for guys and girls. Support sustainable fashion. This spring, do your thing and recycle the spring-inspired clothes, shoes, and accessories that are just hanging in your closet for cash on the spot. Let your spring clothes bloom into cash at Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town on a thoughtful Thursday. I'm Steve Bach, along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota National Health Center. Also, Mick Peterson in the studio with us, nurse practitioner with Health Now. And we're talking about men's health. June is Men's Health Month, and men have a lot of health concerns.
They do.
A lot of different things, a lot of preventative things, and things you kind of have to plan ahead for. And I say that a little tongue-in-cheek as I'm, past 50 now. Yeah. And there's, kind of my running joke is, when I turned 40, I was hoping things weren't going to start falling apart. And when I turned 50, I was going to hope they didn't start falling off.
Yeah.
It's we're about 50-50.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of preventative medicine out there.
Yeah,
there's things you need to think about.
I think men tend to put the blinders on a little bit when
head
it comes
in the sand and muscle through, and we're going to be fine and just power through.
Yep. And that's our makeup to a fault. And it's just a chance. Men's Health Month is really just a chance for people like Mick and I to try to raise the awareness, maybe rattle some cages and get some guys taking charge of their health. We've talked about heart disease and diabetes. There's a lot of other things that need to be considered. One of the things I think that's probably overlooked in men's health, and I assume Mick would concur, is mental health. Mm-hmm. It's an important aspect of their overall health. Approximately 9 to 10% of men experience major depressive episodes each year, and suicide rates are actually higher among men than they are among women. So if they're not seeking out some help or trying to muscle through that, they can get to a bad space.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that got exacerbated with COVID, too. You see that completely across the board, men, women, children, men a lot. You take a look at just some of the changes in the workplace.
Right.
That's a huge piece.
Mm-hmm. It is. And, the major depressive episodes per year is likely underreported, that 9 to 10%, because, again, as we already said, men tend not to seek care, right? So we keep our head in the sand and we don't go in and talk about what's going on. Or if we do have a routine physical, like, oh, how are things going? They're fine. You know, and that's where it ends, right?
Well, and a lot of the mental health stuff and the depression leads into the addiction, which leads to so many other things. Alcoholism leads to diabetes. We were talking about. So there's so many different connectors here.
Exactly. Yeah, and trying to put all those things together and trying to identify those pieces are crucial, especially in a primary care visit. And mental health is definitely underreported, but it's integral to overall functionality with health as well. You start messing with the brain, you start messing with the neurotransmitters, you start messing with the hormones, everything can come cascading down. Men, after, a year or so of poor mental health, they're like, I just am so tired all the time, and I don't feel like I have the gusto that I used to. And it's like, well, and what's been going on?
Well, we can segue into the hormone component of that, but I want to point out that within Dakota Natural Health Center is Wellness Rediscovered. Laura Huvestal, a nurse practitioner who's been on the program, and her focus is really mental health. So it's a nice piece. I've referred a few people to her where I sensed there was an issue. Mick's office and Laura's office are right next to each other. So it's a great combination. When somebody does express a need, they can be referred to somebody that really has a focus on that.
So when you're looking at those different components, and like I said, a lot of the addiction issues, that one beer leads to two, and I had a really, really bad day, a 6-pack afterward.
Right.
It's an easy pathway for people to get tripped up into, and that's why having that mental health piece is so important.
Yeah, very much so. And being able to, like Kevin already alluded to, being able to refer to somebody with that specialty. I know that Bismarck Mandan's, unfortunately, the wait time on mental health appointments are extremely long, but being able to have another provider that focuses specifically on mental health, and I believe, does some addiction counseling, that's a huge piece.
I like your idea that, well, I had a bad day, so I'm going to have a couple beers. Well, pretty soon every day is bad.
Right.
They're not crawling out of the depth of that depressive episode, and suddenly we've got much, much greater problems.
Okay, there's a running joke, and I'm not making the joke right now, but you think, because I want to get into some of the hormone stuff, and that's a component of mental health, because, people make jokes all the time about, well, once a month, women, because their hormones are off with their cycle. Men have hormone issues as well.
Very much so.
That throw off their mood and their mental well-being, because people make the jokes and identify 1 week a month with women, but men have those mental health hormone relationships as well. So if you have a deficit or your hormones get thrown off, then you very well could have mental health issues.
Absolutely,
especially as we age. Right. I've told family.
You're looking at me again.
I've told I've actually told husband and wives that, John, I think you might be in andropause. You really need to get some testosterone labs done. And they'll go, that's real? I'm like, absolutely. Women go through menopause. Men go through andropause. So their testosterone levels drop and their hormone conversions change. So suddenly they're making more estrogen than they should. They get emotional.
Lethargic, emotional.
Yep, they're fatigued. They don't understand what's going on. They try to ignore it, and suddenly...
Stop yelling at me. I'm too tired to go mow the lawn right now.
Right. Suddenly, their lack of hormone balance is a mental health issue. So, and you'll see as we talk about these, there's so much interrelation between the health problems that men tend to ignore.
Yeah, it's an extremely unfortunate thing. And yes, there are tests that can be done. And being where I'm at and having the capabilities that we have, there are a number of different ways that we can test, and extremely sensitive and specific tests for it.
And follow up is so important.
Well, I want to circle back to this because I want to do one segment this morning just on hormone replacement and how, because it is important to look at that, and then what the compounding lab can bring to that as well. But what are some of the other, besides mental health and diabetes and heart issues, what are some of the other big concerns for men with men's health?
Testicular health, doing self-checks.
Yeah, that tends to be a younger man's concern, just because, now, I'm not looking at Steve anymore. No.
Gee, thanks. Wow.
No, it tends to be a cancer of younger men, late adolescence, early manhood, if you will. But testicular health, there's, of course, the cancer health or cancer prevention steps that you can take, whether it's sun-related exposures or, lung cancer, colorectal cancer, things that we can screen for.
Well, define young, because I had a testicular cancer bout about 8 years ago. So
the primary, ages tend to range anywhere from 15 years old all the way up to 44. That's not the hard and fast rule, right? But that's the most common times of the age of testicular cancer happening or occurring. So.
And the American Cancer Society estimates that 1 in 250 men will get testicular cancer.
Right.
I think that's a big number.
That's a
was
big
to
number.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So.
Some of the other things I think that need to be discussed are access to healthcare. We're a very rural state. We have a lot of men out in the farming community. Their small town may not have a good go-to healthcare. They're busy. If it's not the middle of winter, they're doing something in the field. They're in the crop. They don't think they can take the time to travel 100 plus miles to see a caregiver. And then the next thing you know, it's 5 years later and they haven't seen anybody.
Yeah, I've scheduled this appointment and I got to drive to go see my doctor. Yeah. But gee, it's the one day the wind's not blowing and I have to spray weeds.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Guess which wins?
Yeah. The other thing is workplace health. Men tend to be in more dangerous occupations. And I think part of that is peer pressure from that workforce. There are some workplaces where they tend to smoke more, and they're headed to the bar after work. So it's really their day is spent in labor, and their after hours are spent in working with their fellow laborers to take care of the stress that they went through that day.
What about prostate too? You and I have had a
we had a whole program on prostate.
Yeah, we had a whole prostate program one day, but that's another concern too.
Oh.
Some of those numbers you threw out, it's not if but when you get prostate cancer, your prostate falls apart. So as far as preventative with men's health, what do you look at?
Yeah, that's primarily a screening thing that we're watching for symptoms of enlarged prostate, again, family history, things like that. So
genetics is huge.
Genetics is a big component, but again, hormones play a big role in prostate health as well.
Yeah, because your hormones can go down a bad pathway. Bad lifestyle can lead to excessive DHT levels and things like that.
We're going to come back and talk hormones when we come back. We're talking with Mick Peterson, nurse practitioner at Health Now, along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore, and all kinds of cool stuff nestled in there as well. June is Men's Health Month, and we're talking men's health. When we come back, we're going to talk the hormone side, things that quite often get overlooked. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Follow us on
Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston are springing up cash. Just sell us your gently used warm weather styles like tees, shorts, sandals, and more. We're paying cash on the spot for gently used spring styles for guys and girls. Support sustainable fashion. This spring, do your thing and recycle the spring-inspired clothes, shoes, and accessories that are just hanging in your closet for cash on the spot. Let your spring clothes bloom into cash at Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
Like us on Facebook, Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk the Town. I'm Steve Bakken along with Kevin Oberlander of Dakota Pharmacy and Dakota National Health Center, and Mick Peterson, nurse practitioner with Health Now, nestled in downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. We're talking men's health. June, of course, Men's Health Month. Last week was Men's Health Week, and we're running through the gambit of some of the concerns that men have to have because men don't always pay attention to their health. And we just talked about things that come back to the hormones. And I want to get into that because you think about, menopause with women, and you don't think about men going through hormone issues, or it's just kind of kicked under the rug. You don't pay attention to it. It's like, it's just part of aging a little bit.
Right.
But it's a big deal.
It is, yeah. Too many times I've spoken with men in their, 40s, 50s, 60s, and they're like, well, I keep talking about how tired I am, and that's just a part of aging. It's like,
yeah, or I'm working too much.
Or I'm working too much,
I
right.
stayed up a little late a couple nights. I just, people slough it off, thinking that it's part of lifestyle, whatever, right. And you kind of pass it along, but there's probably a reason for it.
There likely is, and that's where asking the right questions and being able to take the time and identify those causes, or if there is a cause, whatnot, that's where we can take the time, and I lean on Kevin for hormone replacement and talking about hormones because he's been doing this a fair number of years longer than I have.
30.
Now we're both looking at you.
Yeah. One of the first compounding seminars that I went to years ago was on hormone replacement, and it was really geared mostly for women. But one of the presenters was a medical doctor by the name of Dr. Shipp, and I don't remember his first name. He had written a book called Testosterone Power, and this is 25 years ago, and it was kind of new to the audience. We really didn't think about it that much. We thought of testosterone as bodybuilders wanting to get big muscled and not really addressing the lack of proper hormone production that has many different reasons.
Yeah, you'd think steroids for bulk, but
well, testosterone's a steroid hormone,
right?
So,
but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about your normal hormones in proper balance, like they should be.
And just like with women and hormone replacement, with the use of synthetic hormones, men were getting that needed to. And Dr. Shippen admitted he was doing it wrong originally, using synthetic testosterone injections in big doses, like 300 milligrams once a month. But there was problems that followed that. So it was really interesting to hear his path. And he took us down his path of going to smaller dose injections, then to the topical application of testosterone, to sublingual. There were some oral testosterone things on the market, which were a problem because they were hard on the liver, increased the risk of blood clots. Then it kind of went away because it just thought to be, well, this is not good therapy. It's too risky. It just wasn't being done right. So I've had the fortunate position to continue to go and listen to the experts in the hormone world and how they're treating their patients and their positive outcomes in their case studies.
I grew up in the 80s, and that was, prime time for people that were juicing for athletics.
Sure, right.
And now you look at the health problems that a lot of those professional athletes or wrestlers or people have today, or they've already died because they had a heart attack or something. I attribute a lot of that to the overuse of steroids.
Oh, I don't think there's any question about that. So again, it is not so much about, it's identifying the problem, but the real key, I think, is the right therapy, doing it right, understanding that hormones move. They go down pathways. They change into other hormones. Testosterone will convert to estrogen. So it's important, and Mick will concur, because we talk about this all the time in the testing. He's looking at estrogen to make sure that if we're applying some testosterone to a patient, it's not driving their estrogen levels up, because then that's bad therapy, because we're feeding the fire. So we have to be very careful about dosing, the lifestyle, what changes can be made that we can mitigate that, or men funneling to DHT, which is a real problem. That's a prostate problem. So testosterone is the right therapy oftentimes, but not doing it correctly is a big problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not doing it correctly is a huge issue. And yes, Kevin is exactly right. I always go and visit with him about hormone replacement therapy. What's the right dosing? What's the right delivery method? And then if there is an estrogen concern, what are some supplements? Because they're right there. What are some supplements that we can utilize to help push that, either stop the estrogen production or drive it back towards the testosterone production?
Or what vegetables should they eat?
Or what vegetables should they? Yeah, right. So,
all right, secret. What's the vegetable?
Cruciferous vegetables they're called indoles. So broccoli, kale, cauliflower. Indoles really inhibit the conversion of testosterone to bad hormones. So diet's a big part of it. Now, if that's the problem, you have to eat a lot of vegetables to slow that conversion. So, but supplementally, you can get indoles in a capsule form to help that. There's actually a drug, one that we're familiar with called anastrozole, which is a breast cancer drug. And in women, it turns off their estrogen production when their breast cancer is fed by estrogen. And we figured out in tiny doses, men take maybe once a week, it slows that conversion to estrogen with very few side effects. So there are ways to do this, and we learn more all the time. I mean, it's a moving target.
We're talking with Mick Peterson and Kevin Oberlander. Kevin, of course, of Dakota Pharmacy and Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore, and Mick Peterson, nurse practitioner with Health Now. We're talking men's health. This is Men's Health Month on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston are springing up cash. Just sell us your gently used warm weather styles like tees, shorts, sandals, and more. We're paying cash on the spot for gently used spring styles for guys and girls. Support sustainable fashion. This spring, do your thing and recycle the spring-inspired clothes, shoes, and accessories that are just hanging in your closet for cash on the spot. Let your spring clothes bloom into cash at Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town on Thoughtful Thursday. I'm Steve Beichel. I'm with Kevin Oberland, Dakota Pharmacy and Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. One of the many things nestled in there is Health Now. We're also talking to Mick Peterson, nurse practitioner with Health Now. And we're talking hormones and hormone replacement. And hormones are a huge part. The stat you mentioned earlier that men die, on average 4 years...
4 years earlier than women. Yeah.
I have to ask, my mind goes right to, is it because we don't pay attention to the hormones and things that keep our body up to speed? Women do.
Yeah.
We don't.
Well, no, I think you're right. And I don't know that it's so much about the hormone production. I think it's a lot about what we just talked about, the metabolism improperly to make dangerous hormones internally, which they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
That's where
where's your body out?
Right. Mm-hmm. And I would ask Mick, what do you think is some of the key things you've learned over the last couple of years that really have brought you to the point that you are? In men's health.
In men's health, asking the right questions, being able to relate to men and take the time to understand where they're coming from, and to know knowing family history and genetics, but making sure that proper follow-up with the hormones are being addressed, mitigating risk with regards to their prostate, making sure that we're tracking the estrogen and the other hormones, the DHT, those other hormones that are that can be bad, and making sure that the hormone that we're choosing, if hormone replacement therapy is the correct option, what's the delivery method? How can we? What's the best delivery method for the patient? What's the best base that, from a compounding standpoint, or is a commercially available product better for the patient than something that Kevin can compound? So it's I'm still learning. I mean, it's still an ongoing process. But
so the commercial products, they're topical creams. They tend to be doses tend to be a little bit higher than they should be. We don't tend to be patient enough. The male community, they really want. So if they're dealing with sexual desire or erectile dysfunction, they want that quick fix.
Right.
Now, testosterone is
Well,
not
everything across the board. It's
Yeah.
like we're in an instant
Yeah.
gratification society.
Give me a
today.
pill for that.
And
right.
it's important because men think if they have some erectile dysfunction and their testosterone is low, if they get that replaced, the ED is addressed, and that oftentimes isn't the case. Testosterone's part of that, but it's really not an erectile dysfunction drug.
Or they'll default right to the erectile dysfunction,
Right.
take a pill for that, boom,
yeah.
done.
Yeah.
But that's probably not the root cause.
Right.
We talk about that all the time.
Right. Yeah.
What other systems are failing or
So-
not working together correctly?
So if they're converting from testosterone to estrogen, they're probably going to have some erectile dysfunction. So that needs to be addressed. And then, we talked earlier, let's prescribe or get Mick to prescribe some testosterone. On a recheck, we see that estrogen jumps. We know there's some more critical underlying issues. As far as the methods of testosterone delivery, there's injections, there's these topical creams. Dr. Shippen's gone from so the problem with the typical testosterone dose is it's once or twice a month. It's a big dose. So suddenly their testosterone levels after a few days are more than they should be. Then their body's fighting to convert that away, and that pushes it down a bad pathway. Then they drop off, and then they don't feel good. They get another injection. They skyrocket again.
Big yo-yo effect.
Yeah, it is a yo-yo effect. That can be some insulin-resistant issues because that steroid hormone can affect the insulin receptors. Shippen has really gone back to 3 injections a week, teaches his men how to do that. It's kind of painful because it's an oil injection, but I think it's much, much better therapy. I personally think creams are better. They're kind of a hassle because you have to do them once or twice a day, but they're not that difficult to do. And then dosing.
Yeah.
Dosing is a real key when we do these topicals.
Dosing's a big thing, and then setting expectations from a patient standpoint. The saturation point is what Kevin has encouraged me to encourage the patients to understand is normally takes 3 months for us to see the full therapeutic effect of a topical cream. I believe that the topical is probably the safest route of hormone replacement therapy as well, because it's allowing the body to utilize the hormone as it sees fit.
So what's the delivery system on that? Is it just a patch that you?
No, we
or?
actually compound a cream using a base that was developed specifically for the delivery of testosterone by one of our compounding vendors, and making sure. I like the idea of starting low and going slow. You'd be surprised. We were doing 50, 100, 150 milligrams of testosterone a day, and guys weren't getting any better. And we do 10, 15, 20 milligrams a day. And as long as they take their time and not try to push the envelope, you get to that saturation point, things tend to balance out. They start to feel better. Sometimes their numbers don't look much different. Their testosterone's still low, but their other hormones are good, but they feel better. I think that's a great place to be because you're mitigating the risk.
Where's my cream? I got to go to the gym.
There you go.
That's right. So what are some things men should look for symptom-wise before they would come talk to you?
The fatigue, big piece of it. Brain fog. A lot of men could get concerned about not being able to focus.
Just a senior moment.
Exactly.
Don't worry about
great
it.
call. Great call.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. The brain fog or the just not confusion, but just sort of that lapse in memory, forgetfulness. Right. Yep. And the get up and go factor. I think I had a patient that's just like, I just don't, my giddy up isn't there anymore. And that's, I'm not going to say that's later on in, loss of hormone, but, just sort of that blah feeling that men have, or that they think is likely related to hormones, very well could be. But I would say the fatigue, brain fog, and the blah.
Brain fog is interesting. Hormones are neurotransmitters.
Right.
They're messengers, and without those messengers, the messages don't get to the brain, so the brain is foggy.
Fascinating stuff, guys. We're up against the break, but Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy and Dakota Natural Health Center, Mick Peterson, nurse practitioner with Health Now. Mick, if somebody's got any questions or, hey, it's Sounds like some things I've got going on. How do they get a hold of you?
They can visit my website, and they can actually set up their own appointment with me via healthnowapp.com, or they can give me a call, 701-502-4669.
Pleasure. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you, Steve.
Kevin, thank you. As
bet.
always, don't forget, June is Men's Health Month. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
KLXX AM, Mandan, Bismarck, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union studio.
News, talk, and sports for Bismarck Mandan. Super Talk 1270. Talk of the Town, brought to you by Big Boy. Just get in line. It moves fast. Benchmark Mortgage. Call Joe Sheehan, your mortgage planner, at 701-400-3926. Dakota Pharmacy and Dakota Natural Health Center. We're here to help you stay well. Trademark Realty. Peak Automotive and Service. And Silver Ranch. Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
You're tuned to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Boggan along with Joe Sheehan, your mortgage planner from Benchmark Mortgage. Give him a call at 701-400-3926. Joe, numbers, my friend.
Yeah, quick and easy. Everything's moving as expected. The core PCE came in with on estimates across all components. Only surprising thing here today is the daily from the Federal Reserve Board came out with some hawkish comments and said that the balance sheet runoff will continue even after rate hikes are done, which we've talked about this before, the fact that the Fed has an incredibly large balance sheet. And so the idea that rates are just going to come down after the Fed's done raising rates isn't necessary. They may come down, but not what people are thinking they're going to come down, because the Fed still had like $10 trillion in bonds it put on its balance sheet that it has to liquidate. Well, that's going to go into competition with the new bonds that we're releasing, and that will keep rates up, or is competition against rates coming down. So daily kind of threw out the reminder. So we kind of had a nice sunshiny day coming into the
I got that song stuck in my head.
Daily had to just kind of throw a rain cloud on the parade just because that's his job. And jobless claims coming in as expected, still historically low. The one thing that potentially truly threatens interest rates is, of course, the cuts in production in oil. Pushing, oil came down to about $72, back up at 80 very quickly.
And probably going to go up a little higher because OPEC's looking at cutting 100 million barrels.
Which, as we know, is great for inflation. But who needs an energy policy, right?
Right. It's kind of funny. You and I have been talking about this for a long time, but this morning I'm watching some of the talking heads on, and it wasn't political bias stations, because it was Fox Business, it was MSNBC, and they all had a story on there about the difference between the administration and what they're doing about pumping the money into the economy and what the Fed's trying to do. And they're like, every one of them was like, this is wrong. I mean, you've got two different philosophies that are going head to head, and nobody's going to win because of this.
Yeah, it makes as much sense as holding your AA room at the elbow room.
Yeah.
I mean, it's... you just go ahead and hold all those AA meetings at the elbow room, and that's how much sense it makes. Literally, this is the planning, the level of intelligence it seems to be going into in terms of the way we're managing things. And so, so oil comes back up, and it's not going to be a big problem today. It's just one of those ticklers that reminds you, hey, guess what? We have nothing working together with energy.
Right.
We're gonna expand electric cars while cutting clean coal. We're going to continue to rely on more imports of oil while we have to export gasoline. Oh wait,
you won't be able to charge that electric car because
even when we have more oil, we can't lower the price of gas because we have no new refineries. I mean, it's just we're just gonna release strategic oil reserves, which lower the price less than 0.02 cents per gallon.
Yeah.
Gas. I mean, it just again we just have it's just a reminder.
The other side of that though too is they were talking about all the consumer spending that was going on out there and credit card debt. They're like, okay, all this money's getting pumped into the economy by the administration, which is counterintuitive to what the Fed's trying to do. But then they started talking about all the spending because the GDP is growing and all the spending that's taking place. And they went, hey, but it's the credit card debt.
Well, don't worry about that because, see, they understand now that with the student loan forgiveness program that they didn't. They understand. They understand that they just didn't cast that net wide enough to get everybody on board because just not enough people were covered by it. So look forwort to the credit card forgiveness program
to
come out.
The car loan forgiveness. How about the mortgage forgiveness?
You know what? So look forward to that forgiveness program because that will get them elected again. They just didn't cast.
Yeah, that's coming for the campaign promise for the next Biden.
Actually, I'm running on it. I'm going to go for the all forgiveness program.
We're going to pay everything for you.
There we go. I mean, well, we've proven we could do it. We sent everybody home. Nobody had to work during COVID. See, I mean, we proved we could. We proved we could do it. So
we're just going to keep printing money until everybody's got enough, right?
Yeah. So I mean, but no, quite honestly, there's nothing. There's no real news except for just a couple reminders that there are definitely sharks in the water. Okay. Yes, it's a nice day at the beach, but there are definitely sharks in the water.
So my question, though, and this is the question I've got, is usually when you're spending a lot of money going into the holidays and you're running up credit card bills, and people are running up credit card bills earlier now, and that usually comes back to roost in January and February. What are your projections for January and February looking like if people are already in trouble with credit card debt now?
Yeah, I think it's the last hurrah. I think it's I do feel like this may be COVID's last hurrah.
There's a lot of pushback going on about COVID now too in the vaccines, and actually it came out the White House is going to start pushing social media to go, hey, you need to go get your COVID because they want those algorithms back up for your shots because the supply of vaccinations are about to outpace what the demand is because the demand has dropped. So that was another big thing in the news yesterday and today as well. So, tying back to the whole COVID and people not working and
and I think that people got in the habit of spending money. Online sales were up over 7% over Black Friday. And so
Cyber Monday was huge this year.
Yeah, I think
and Black Friday was big though.
No, I mean cyber sales overall, whether it's all weekend, were up. And I think that it's the last hurrah I think that people have, we're going to deal with this next year. And of course, what they're going to deal with is
Does anybody realize how close next year is already?
But I think it's just, I'm going to get through the holidays one more time. And then I'm going to serious up. I think it's the perennial kind of diet resolution, but the resolution is going to be, I'm going to recover from COVID in 2024. And I think that's a lot of consumers. So when we come back, we got a guest with us, Benchmark Spotlight here, Randy Gust, another mortgage planner on the team, and we're going to bring him back. He's going to give us some insight into some of the things he's doing with his customers to help them achieve the dream of home ownership in this interesting environment. Once they always challenging, but certainly interesting.
You better have a damn plan. This is Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach along with Joe Sheehan from Benchmark Mortgage. You give him a call. He is your mortgage planner. 701-400-3926. Randy, when we come back, this is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 12.
Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
You're tuned to Super Rock 1270. I'm Steve Bach, along with Joe Sheehan from Benchmark Mortgage, your mortgage planner. Give him a call at 701-400-3926. Also, Randy joining us. Interesting in the home market side of things. And you know what? If you have a plan, if you got a mortgage plan in place, now's not a time to stop thinking about buying a house. It's not a bad time right now. People get hung up on the interest rates. And we've learned that there's so much more to just interest rates.
Well, and so, we have a real simple message on this show. If you need a mortgage planner, call me. But Randy's here today.
701-400-3926.
Randy's a little more open-minded than I am.
Yeah.
So Randy, why don't you tell people maybe one of the things that you're really good at is, like, how do you pick your mortgage planner? What are the advice you give to people on who you're looking for and how you know you're working with the right person?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I haven't been on the radio for a while, so it's nice to come and spend some time with you guys. First thing that comes to my mind when it comes to picking a lender, there's so many different ones out there. And I think it can be a little tricky to know who has what for experience. But one thing that not a lot of people know is you can look up a lender's NMLS license online. There's a site that you can look them up, and you can see
Which stands for National Mortgage License Service.
Yeah,
right?
But that'll help you if you're curious to just how many years or where somebody's career path has been at. You can find it easily online if that's something.
Well, and most people don't think about that side of the diligence. I mean, you have to have your due diligence right now, whether you're looking at a house, if you're working with a realtor, if you're looking for a lender, because most people they'll ask the realtor, hey, who should I go with? Or they'll go, hey, I bank at X, Y, and Z, so that's where you go. And that's not always the best solution. It could be a solution, but it's not always the best solution.
Well, like Randy's MLS history will show a 15-plus year career versus, you go sign up on Rocket and look for the NMLS person you're talking to, and it's yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be surprised. You might be surprised at what somebody has or doesn't have for experience. And there's a lot more to mortgages than just interest rates. And
experience matters.
Yeah.
And Joe and I talk all the time about the nuances with the North Dakota Housing Finance Agency and the different programs that are out there, which it's important to know those right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there can be a lot, too, putting a mortgage together correctly. And it comes with experience. It does take time to.
Well, knowing the options is what that experience gives you, because a lot of people, here's the cookie cutter mortgage plan. Do you fit this box? No.
Right.
I might have something a little creative. There might be a better plan out there. What are the other options? That's experience.
Right.
You need that experience to go, okay, there's a USDA, there's an FDA, there's different plans out there for different people in different scenarios.
Yeah. And one thing I would say, back to what you were referring to as far as just who you're choosing and maybe you're getting direction to go with one particular lender, is I wouldn't make a decision too much in your mind without actually going and meeting with them. So even if somebody were to give you a name to start with, that's great. That's pointing you in a direction. But sometimes I'll get people that will ask me my opinion, and then one of the questions I'll ask them is have you sat down and met with them? Have you had a chance to get some of these questions out there? And they'll say, no, I haven't yet. And I'll say, well, do that first, because you're making a lot of decisions that you might be making too early without meeting with them first.
See, and this is why Randy's such a great member of the team. He's the gentler, kinder soul on the team.
And he's so nice on radio, but he's better looking too.
Ask them, like, are you going to ever meet them? Then you got me on the radio. Hey, let me tell you the truth, folks. Most lenders don't attend your closing anymore. Like, that's a great question, Randy, because what most people don't understand is that they're going to be given a pre-approval letter and then they're going to be abandoned on the side of the road. Mm-hmm. That's almost what's happening to almost every customer out there right now. And that's the difference between, benchmark people and other people.
Well, and what happens a lot, too, is, you'll show up and then the title guy will be there or person, and then that's it. Okay, wait a minute. Your realtor will be there, but how many times does somebody walk into, you got to come up with another $3,000 at closing or $3,500 at closing because the numbers, okay, first of all, that's a bad position to put somebody in to when they're buying a house, and then you could lose a deal over $3,500.
Mm-hmm.
So no surprises.
Mm-hmm.
And when the lender's there, you don't get the surprises.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a good question. You could come right out and ask up front is to your lender is if they'll give you the word that they'll be there at closing. And that's a good question. That's a really good question to ask. I think a lot of times it's hard for a customer to know when talking with somebody if they sound like they're great and they might have a lot of information right up front, but to what degree will they be there for you in the last 2 weeks of the process? And really, that's when it's a lot of times the most stressful for people is those last 2 weeks. And so that's important. And I think we are coming off a period with COVID where a lot of lenders don't always attend the closings for whatever reasons, and I'm definitely against that. I can't. It's probably been over 5 years since I've missed attending a closing. So it's just such a big time for the customer and for everybody. It's important to be there.
It's kind of like running a race and then you're not going to cross the finish line. That makes no sense. Now's not a bad time to buy. Okay, so
being a Michigan head coach.
Yeah. All right. I've actually been rooting for John Harbaugh in Michigan just because they're trying to screw him over so bad. So, and I'm not a Michigan fan by any stretch. So, Randy, now people get hung up on interest rates,
mm-hmm.
but there's so many more things that go into a mortgage and what that payment looks like and how that looks in your larger financial picture and that investment side of things. Now's really not a bad time to buy a house, is it?
Well, we're coming into the coldest part of the year, right? Winter's around the corner.
People don't like to move in the winter, but buying a house in the winter is not a bad thing.
From a contractual standpoint, it's usually the best time of the year. In terms of, obviously, when you go around and look at homes, to the eye, they don't look as nice as they would if it was the middle of July.
Well,
right?
that's curb appeal, though.
Curb appeal isn't what it is in the middle of summer.
Let the realtor worry about that side of
right.
it.
But from a contractual standpoint, I think it a lot of times is better in the sense that you're much less likely to run into competing offers and having to deal with that, and so there's less buyers out there typically in the winter because they don't want to have to move, and so that in a way is an advantage. Prices, a lot of times people will put it off until March or April. Well, of course, if you're a seller and the buying pool is double, well, you're probably going to reflect that in your price a little bit. So,
but people get hung up on the moving side of things, not the buying side of things, because going into winter, a good time to buy.
Mm-hmm.
But people think about, if I buy a house, then I got to move in the winter, and forget the moving side of it. This is a contractual, this is a financial
mm-hmm.
decision that you're making. So buying now, not a bad idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, what if your negotiating power in the winter gave you enough extra money to hire movers?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, probably is. It just depends, of course. Right now, if you were asking me, it's not. But we've had it easy.
Spoiled right now.
Right.
And I will take this all winter long if we can. But
wearing Burks over here.
you are, aren't you? Jeez.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll do that too until the snow gets too deep.
Burks t-shirts weather, folks.
He says that in February. We're talking with Randy and Joe Sheehan. Give them a call over Benchmark Mortgage. See, now's not a bad time to buy a home. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town.
Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston are springing up cash. Just sell us your gently used warm weather styles like tees, shorts, sandals, and more. We're paying cash on the spot for gently used spring styles for guys and girls. Support sustainable fashion. This spring, do your thing and recycle the spring-inspired clothes, shoes, and accessories that are just hanging in your closet for cash on the spot. Let your spring clothes bloom into cash at Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
Talkin', weekday mornings starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app. Talk of the Town, brought to you by Big Boy, just get in line, it moves fast. Benchmark Mortgage. Call Joe Sheehan, your mortgage planner, at 701-400-3926. Dakota Pharmacy and Dakota Natural Health Center. We're here to help you stay well. Trademark Realty, Peak Automotive and Service, and Silver Ranch. Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
You're tuned to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bach along with Joe Sheehan. He is your mortgage planner over at Benchmark Mortgage. Give him a call at 701-400-3926. Also, Randy Gus from Benchmark in with us as well. And, you know, Joe, we talk all the time about refinancing, and people that go, oh, well, I'll just refinance because of the high interest rates. And the people that waited. But there is a time to refinance. Don't plan on it because that shouldn't be part of your plan right now. But there are times to refinance.
How do you know when the opportunity? How do you know when the opportunity's right for you now?
Yeah,
Randy, go ahead and you take that one.
I think it's good to use this time now to think of what your goal really is if you were to refinance. If that, like you said, I wouldn't purchase and bank on interest rates lowering and things like that. I wouldn't go into a purchase.
Well, Joe and I
mindset,
talked before. You know, where we're at right now is traditional averages. I mean, big picture, it's about average and where a mortgage rate should be because it was artificially depressed for so long. People got in the mindset of, oh, I can refinance, I can do it. And then you had people out there, they're going, oh, yeah, don't worry about the 8-9% interest rates. You'll just refinance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can't count on that.
Right. Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of people that think that they will start to come down eventually. Well, they already have. If you really look over the last couple of months, we've already seen them improve. But I think figuring out just what your goal is and putting, it's kind of like going into an auction or sort of you
having a plan.
Yeah, you sort of have your limit already preset that you don't want to spend or over exceed. Well, kind of the same thing with refinancing.
I need to have you talk to my wife.
Figure out what you're trying to accomplish. Maybe even have those numbers dialed into what. Because it's gonna be tricky next year figuring out where the bottom's at, right? So if rates were to come down to say 6.5, there's going to be people that are unsure if they should pull the trigger or are they going to keep going? Should we wait? And
I don't know if we figured out where the top is right now either, though. That's the other side of it because with what's going on financially in this country. Have we hit the highest interest rates that we possibly could hit? Because we watched that as they were ticking up in the first time. Joe and I talked about it all the time. Because people I've talked to so many people that they're going to wait. They're going to wait as things are going up. And when you start looking at the equity side of things in a home, that was a bad decision. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure we've seen the top, let alone the floor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's and I think that comes down to meeting with a lender. There's some really good questions that we can ask that'll help. You know, one would be if you were to refinance, if there's any cash out, if they're, you know, maybe coming up with a plan, if that's anything that might come into it, that you might need, that might come into just improving your situation. So
and there's a lot of reasons to refinance besides just a lower interest rate. Right. So whether it's a home improvement project or you got a better use for some of that money, maybe you're buying a secondary property or you're buying some land or you have some other needs for that money. There's different reasons to refinance and they're all not just hinging on interest rates.
Mm-hmm. And what I'd like to see is, obviously I'd like to see interest rates drop, but hopefully it's a steady, gradual drop. If they drop too fast, you know, then that can result in there being so many refinances and people just maybe not getting the level of service that they should get if the whole industry is just bombarded, right? So I'm hoping that they do drop. It'd be nice to see that happen for everybody, but with a steady, healthy drop too. So that.
You know, Joe, you and I have talked about this as well, that yo-yo. So, you know, there's another side of that besides just the interest rates on your mortgage, but it's how it plays out in the bond market and instability, not good for anything.
No, and I think that what Randy's talking about is important. Like, if you think refinancing is in your future, and believe me, you think it. You don't know it. You think it. And because once rates do drop,
you want to be ready for it.
Right. You might not have a lot of time. And so I think calling somebody, like, I'll take your call right now. Randy will take your call right now. And we literally can put you on a watch list. If we know your target rate is 5.5, You literally, we can set a tickler for you. When rates hit 5.5, we call you and lock you in. Mm-hmm. We can have your file ready for that. So that, like, okay, they're at 5.5, you're ready to lock. Now, so we both have that ability. And we can watch, and we can absolutely watch for that. Now, here's the other thing. There are a lot of people who bought $275,000 and $350,000 houses right now that didn't want $275,000 or $350,000 houses. They wanted $450,000 or $500,000 houses. And so here's the deal. If rates drop 2 points or 2.5 points, could you buy more house with $600 or $700 in your budget?
Yeah, so refi or sell.
You might not be refinancing at all. You might call me, and I know no one likes to think that they're going to move in less than 2 years, but what if you could all of a sudden move into the house you really wanted when you bought your last one? So, like, I think that's why Randy's advice is so important, is that if you're thinking you're going to refinance, don't wait till rates drop to look into it. Mm-hmm. Be ready for it so that you make the best decision when it happens.
Yeah, I think that starts with giving us a call and meeting with us so we can go through a few of these questions and lay out a few of these things. So you have a goal, you have some things already planned ahead of time. So, like you said, when it happens, if it happens, there'll be a lot of people calling around, and you might not have as much time as you think. So
Randy, when you're looking at what's going on financially around, the bigger picture, finances in the country, people getting on the credit cards, people, everything that's going on, household budgets, how important is it to have everything laid out? And I admit this, I'm horrible at this myself sometimes, but thinking far enough ahead to go, okay, I'm ready for this. And mm-hmm. Joe and I talk about this when it comes to being in the position to go pull the trigger on the house you want. Mm-hmm. But for refinances, having all the paperwork done so you're like, boom, done, we're ready. How important is that right now?
Oh, there's so many times that I've met with people, and by the end of the conversation, they'll say, I never thought of that, or I didn't look at it quite like that. And it's just the power of two people getting together, or three people, or however, and just talking it through. And until you really do that, sometimes you don't know what could come of the conversation. So I think it's a good, healthy thing to try to meet with a lender now while we're not as slammed and busy, because we do have some time right now.
Well, and it's another question of you don't know what you don't know until you sit down and go, okay, what questions am I not asking? What mm-hmm. questions should I be asking? Where am I at in this process? If you think you might want to be doing something, you may not know what that something is right now.
Well, let's start with getting specific about what Randy just talked about, and I'm going to focus from a different way again, not the gentler, kinder voice on this show, but. Let's talk about the biggest lie perpetrated on an American home buyer for the last 20 years. And that is that TV, radio, us, we participated in it. The realtors participated in it. Was the reason to buy a house was what, Steve?
Because it was cheaper than renting.
Yes, and why? Because rates are so low. Now's the time to buy a house.
Artificially low.
Now, why buy a house today? Because of rates. Come on. Here's the deal.
Not the rates. We'll talk about this. It's not the rates.
The Pilgrims did not get on the damn boat for rates. You know what I mean? They did not. They Plymouth Rock was not offering any kind of interest rate. Let's be clear.
They didn't get on the Titanic for the same reason.
A whole different metaphor, appropriately placed and humorously so. But let's be clear, from the time of Plymouth Rock till now, getting your own scratch dirt has had nothing to do with the interest rate.
No.
But we did this. We conditioned an entire generation of home buyers to go, the rate's the reason to buy the house. And I had the perfect conversation with somebody yesterday about why this isn't true. He has a good budget, didn't even think about what he could afford. He's like, well, with rates, I don't know. And I said, well, what's the reason to buy this house? What's the reason to buy this house? He goes, well, he's a farmer. So he runs a farm, works in the ag business on top of it, recently got a divorce, and right now is living on his farm. I said, well, what's the reason to buy this house at all? Like, why are you here? I mean, you knew rates are high when you walked in here. So if rates are the problem, why are you here? He goes, well, I'm doing this to be a better dad.
Okay, that's a different discussion.
Okay,
Entirely
all
different
right.
discussion.
Okay, so why? How does this house make you a better dad? Well, I need to be somewhere when I have custody of her. I'm closer to the school. We can get to her activities. We can. What the hell does this have to do with any
That's
damn?
got nothing to do with the rates.
Does the rate matter at all?
No,
and it does in terms of what's the price to afford this every month. But when he got down to his payment of whatever he could afford at $2,500 a month, guess what? All the rates available were affordable. To be a better dad, we could easily get him the $400,000 house he needed to be a better dad with the payment that he could afford. And when I talked to him about why it was a good time to buy, because if rates do fall, his house is going to go up faster. He goes, being a farmer who talks about investments and commodities, he went, well, I never thought of that. And I was like,
that's what you do.
I mean, go be a better dad. Like I said, since Plymouth Rock, interest rates had nothing to do with getting your own scratch of dirt.
No,
we did that to you. Don't buy it.
How that payment fits into that budget, and that's what matters. Joe Sheehan and Randy Gus, you can give Joe a call over at Benchmark Mortgage, 701-400-3926.
Randy, call your number.
This is, Randy, what's your number?
471-1589.
Perfect. 471-1589 or 400-3926. Benchmark Mortgage, doors always open. Make sure you talk to them. It is about having a plan. You have to have a plan. And one of the things that fits into a plan, too, maybe you don't know a lot about it, because I don't, assumable mortgages. Who qualifies for some of those? And they're out there. We'll find out about that when we come back. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.
70.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
You're tuned to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bike along with Joe Sheehan from Benchmark Mortgage. He's your mortgage planner. Give him a call at 701-400-3926. Also, Randy Gus joining us. We're talking about Lumi. Okay, that was during the break. Or the Mando, the men's version of Lumi as well. Assumable mortgages. I want to take a couple minutes in this last segment. People don't always understand assumable mortgages.
Yeah, so I've been getting quite a few questions about it. I know, Joe, you've had some different questions about it. This is something that's, I think buyers are intrigued by it if they see it out there, or if they hear about it, maybe see it on a listing or something like that.
Like, hey, you got a really great interest rate. I can have that rate?
Mm-hmm. So naturally, of course, they're intrigued and want to ask a few questions, and they can give either one of us a call. But we do have a couple of things I'd point out is that not all loans are assumable. There are certain ones that are and certain ones that are not.
How do you tell if you're looking at a property?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a realtor question? Is it your financial? Who finds out that for you?
Well, a lot of times they'd be on the listing, but a lot of times government loans will be assumable and conventional loans won't be. So I guess you'd have to ask the listing agent. Is probably where I'd start with your agent, and then from there I'd find out from the listing agent.
It's like a lot
should
of VA loans.
Should be pretty clear.
All VA loans.
All VA loans are assumable.
The veteran has to agree to it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Yeah, there are a couple of things if it comes to that you would want to know up front in terms of on the VA side if you're assuming a veteran's loan. But I think the biggest thing is we've come off a climate where assumable loans weren't very common. Rates were low for so long that this is something that just all of a sudden is become a focal point. And I have to think that a lot of mortgage companies out there probably aren't prepared to. It's not like they've built 1,000 people departments to handle the kind of volume for this sort of thing. So I think to expect that the process might not be smooth, might take a long time. There might be a lot to it.
So how complicated is it for an assumable mortgage? If there's a property that qualifies for that, and then you work that out with the seller and the buyer and everything.
Ultimately,
what's the process look like?
The quick answer to that is you're going to work directly with that seller's loan servicer. So, it's going to be probably a slightly different process for each one, but I think you'd immediately want to find out who that servicer is, and then you're going to want to reach out to them and get their instructions. That's what you're going to want to do right away. Every servicer is probably going to have a little different process to getting that done, but they're going to be essentially requalifying a new borrower. So there'll be a process for it, and it could take a little while, depending on the company and how well equipped they are to service these kind of things. So it's an interesting topic, because who wouldn't want an interest rate that's that low? But there's a few things to know ahead of time going into it, especially if you're wanting a quicker turn time or something on a.
So basically, you got to allow for some extra time if you're looking at that assumable side of things. But it's worth it. But also, having all your ducks in a row, having a plan in place beforehand, if that scenario pops up, also very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there might be a couple of disadvantages to it too. That current loan might have mortgage insurance that you may not be required to have if you took out your own loan. So there could be a couple factors to it. That's where I think talking to Joe or I could ask some good questions and help point you in the right direction anyway.
I think that's the biggest thing, is just make sure that you don't think that. Again, the interest rate is great, but don't think that it's going to be easy, because companies, what you have to understand is the company to allow you to assume a loan, the company that currently has that loan, isn't making any money for you to assume.
No extra money.
So whereas there was one person in a blue moon trying to assume a loan, now there's a whole bunch of people trying to assume loans. And so the service on these, they're not going to hire new people to do this. So if it takes 120 days to get your loan assumed, that's how long it's going to take.
Joe Sheehan, Randy Gust, you can give Joe Sheehan a call over at Benchmark Mortgage, 701-400-3926. This has been Talk of the Town on Superdog 1270.
KLXX AM, Mandan, Bismarck, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union studio.
Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston are springing up cash. Just sell us your gently used warm weather styles like tees, shorts, sandals, and more. We're paying cash on the spot for gently used spring styles for guys and girls. Support sustainable fashion. This spring, do your thing and recycle the spring-inspired clothes, shoes, and accessories that are just hanging in your closet for cash on the spot. Let your spring clothes bloom into cash at Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.